Another fantastic episode of SuperShares powered by Q. My name is Joe Marquez, Director of Academic Innovation for Q, and we are super excited to be here with you today because this right now is the start of STEM Month. That is right. STEM Month is where we talk about all the different amazing ways you can implement STEM learning within your K-12 classroom. In fact, at the end of this month, we are doing our third Catalyst event, the STEM Posium, and that is when we have a full day, a set of sessions on different STEM activities through practicing educators on how they are integrating STEM into their classroom. And of course, you can go to qlearns.org/ccstem to register for that today. But in honor of that, I came across a tiny but mighty, powerful tool, powerful computer, I would say. I'm going to show it to you really quick here. Look at this thing, right? It is pretty amazing, fits right in the palm of your hand, and it can do many, many different activities and things for you in class. But don't take my word for it. We have the CEO of databot here with us today to talk about this tiny and mighty device. So let's bring Robert on board. Robert, welcome to the show. Thank you so much, my friend, for kicking off this STEM month with us. Can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. Hey, Joe, thank you very much for having databot on board today. It's great to be here. Yeah, my name's Robert Grover. I've been doing STEM since before it was called STEM. Started back in 1988 teaching kids in an after-school program. Back then, we were using Lego robotics. We used Fisher Technic. We had kids building their own electronic circuits. Anyway, 1988, started in a garage, and fast forward 30 years later, I've been working in STEM education all over the world and had the opportunity to work with educators and students for many years.
And I'll tell you, some of the greatest inventions start in a garage, right, Robert? And I had the pleasure of playing around with the databot for a while, and it has some really powerful capabilities. I mean, not only in a STEM classroom, but as a science teacher, there's so many different things, so many different activities that my students could utilize the databot with. I find it to be a very powerful machine. I'm surprised it can fit just barely in the palm of my hand. Could you tell us a little bit more about this amazing tool?
Yeah, for sure. You've hit the nail on the head. The whole intent behind the product was to develop something that could do many, many, many things with a simple device. And that's because STEAM is very complicated. Let me switch a slide here on my presentation, and I'll give you an example. So when we developed databot, this is our problem statement. This is how the whole thing came about. And the inspiration for it was a project that we were doing overseas. We were implementing STEM labs, and they were kind of your typical makerspace experience. People were getting 3D printers, robotic systems, engineering, construction systems, all kinds of training and software stuff, life science kits. Anyway, the problem was that all of these teachers that were getting involved were in a country that had not had a lot of experience with inquiry-based learning, with STEM hands-on experiences, or with any of this equipment. So it was frankly a very terrifying experience. If you think about a teacher who's never used any of these things and they walk into a lab that's full of equipment that has a ton of technical training, content knowledge, all of these things that are required to get up to speed to use it, it's intimidating. Mm-hmm. STEAM itself is complex. So you can see on the slide here, we've got a list of all of these things that you would be using or doing in one of these STEM labs. And we walked out of that particular project and said, wow, we were delivering so much equipment and it was so expensive and it was difficult to even get there. We were importing stuff from 5 countries and, we wanted something that, as you said, will fit in the palm of your hand, would be easily imported, but would be incredibly flexible. So you can literally do everything that you see on that list with databot.
And so when we're looking at these tools, I love the fact that it's not a tool solely for a STEM lab, right? This is something that could be implemented in many facets of education, and the tool itself can be programmable, but it also can function as it's almost like a Swiss Army knife of technology because it's so many different ways that you can get data from these tools, whether you're talking about motion or temperature or sound or light. I mean, it really is like a skeleton key to really unlock a multitude of different activities that can happen in the classroom, right?
Exactly. So we started shipping this product in February of 2022. And since then, it's spread through a number of districts, major districts across the United States. We've been very fortunate to connect with different ambassador programs, teachers that are really highly specialized in STEM, and they're using the product in extraordinary ways. So it's not just for example, a STEM classroom. As you said, it's perfect for a math teacher. We've got lots of people that are doing applied math activities using databot, gathering data from activities like a bungee jumping Barbie, for example. And the kids will gather that data, they'll process it in Desmos, which is a graphing calculator, and they'll come up with all kinds of fascinating applications of real world math. On the science side, this product is so easy to use that out of the box, you basically tap a button, it turns on the app, which everybody's going to get a chance to download and play with at the end of this SuperShare. You'll see how easy it is. Typical probeware, a paradigm of using probes and sensors to set up classical science experiments is very well established out there. And that's what most people will have. They'll have Vernier or Pasco or things like that they pull out of the closet once or twice a year, set up experiments, kids conduct those activities, and then the stuff goes back. databot's much different. It's designed to be what I call a grab and go science device. It's something that if you have an idea for experimenting or investigating something, you should be able to grab that device and within minutes be collecting data and exploring it. So much different paradigm. Because of that, we have students clear down to second, third grade that are using it, and lots of fascinating examples of that going on in classrooms around the country. On the flip side, you've got high school physics profs or high school physics teachers who are doing amazing stuff with it, the same kinds of things you do with traditional probeware, but literally at 5 to 10 times less the cost.
And you know what I would say, like I'm going to pull the tool out again here. When you're talking about ease of access, when there's other platforms out there, right, that you can code and add different wires onto to use as probeware and things like that, but it could tend to be like, oh my, it looks so fragile, I'm gonna break it, or it doesn't have a casing on it. If I touch it, am I gonna fry the computer? Like, this truly seems accessible. Looking at it out of the box, you have the USB inputs, you have the power inputs. I mean, it looks like something that is familiar to teachers and students. And I think that familiarity it creates accessibility, because when you have a timid teacher, you tend to have a device that doesn't get used a lot. When you have a device that looks rugged and capable of many different things, that's when you start seeing its use. And I think that's what you have here. When I'm holding this in my hand, I'm not fearful that I'm holding it on a carpet. I'm not fearful that if I drop it, it's going to completely shatter. It is a very durable and rugged device, which means, like, as a science teacher, when I did a lot of physics, you're talking about the bungee jumping Barbie. We did a lot of physics where we're talking about, okay, if you have a truck going down a ramp and it's impacting a wall, what can we do to limit that impact? This in the truck could detect that impact. It can detect the acceleration. It can detect everything in this little device. And then you would just connect it to the computer and download that data. I think that's extremely powerful. And as you said, it can be used in so many different ways. It's not a probe you use for one lab and then put back into the cupboard for next year. It's something that becomes a tool that is taken out constantly. And that's how you get buy-in and comfortability with devices, is when it becomes a tool of everyday use, or at least weekly use. And I think that's what you have here. I think it's very neat.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Accessibility is a word that comes up regularly because we still work with a lot overseas as well as in the United States, and a lot of developing countries. School systems there do not have access to things like Vernier or Pasco. It's just way too expensive and it's fragile. databot, side note on how tough it is. I mean, people wrap these up in a little bit of bubble wrap or some padding paper. They'll launch them on rockets, catapults, wrist rockets. it's designed to really be used. It's not something to be afraid of. And that was actually one of the specific things that we had in our criteria for building it. It's got to be friendly, approachable, and easy to use. And it really is. I had a teacher send me a testimonial just 2 weeks ago where she said one of her students had dropped it off a 2-story balcony accidentally and it bounced on the concrete. And she said, wow, it still works. And that's not the kind of test we recommend, but it's a good testament to, these things are tough and we want kids to be using them.
And when you're talking about that, I was thinking about how this could be great for PE as well, because the bottom of the databot, if you can see this here, it doesn't have the sensors or anything. That's where that battery pack is, I believe. But if you put a Velcro on it and attach it to a wrist type structure, you can now take this out to PE and you can have them measure their acceleration on the track. They can measure there's a lot of cool things that a PE teacher could use this for, that I could imagine. So you're right. There's so many different ways that it can be used. It's just like, to me, I've had my 4-year-old and 7-year-old play around with this as well, and they have no problem playing it and dropping it on the carpet. So that shows everybody how easily accessible these are. They're not afraid to break it because it is a very rugged looking device.
Yeah, that's great. So let me show you a few examples of how people are using it. The slide I have up right now is just a quick overview of the hardware itself. On the right-hand side, you can see all of those sensors. So you've got 15 different sensors that literally allow you to pursue explorations in physics, chemistry, life science, earth science, environmental explorations. You've also got physical computing attributes like programmable RGB LEDs, a tone generator. You can have all of those things interacting with one another. So we have kids that design, for example, a CO2 alarm where you're going to breathe on the databot. It's going to pick up the elevated CO2 levels, and it might flash red at you and beep at you. So lots of ways for kids to actually physically interact with data as well as the computing side. You'll notice there's extra ports on there. We have waterproof temperature probes. They look like this. So you can drop those in a beaker or a stream. So great for experiments. Those go in the left-hand ports. On the right-hand side, we have open ports that allow you to connect to other systems. So for example, we can tie into your Raspberry Pi, or we can tie into Arduino devices. We can add in external sensors from the ecosystem of sensors that are out there. And then we also have the ability to trigger devices like relays and things like that. So it literally is it's a super STEM device that you can use just out of the box for simple science experiments, or you can do all kinds of advanced, complex things with it. I'll jump ahead here and we can look at a couple of examples of people using it. This is the software overview. We designed it to be accessible for all kinds of software platforms. So you can stream data live into Excel. We have our own coding environment, which is extraordinary. You can talk to it in Python, take data into Desmos, code it with Arduino. Very low floor, high ceiling. So again, kids down to 2nd, 3rd grade using it for science, university level people teaching machine learning with it.
Yeah, I love how many different things it connects with, especially the block coding. Super intuitive. I'm playing around with that. My daughters they've gone through a couple of coding things on code.org, and they were able to take to it like, fish to water. It was pretty easy.
Yeah, Microblocks is an extraordinary program. In fact, I'd recommend John Maloney for your show sometime. He was the lead architect for Scratch for many years and started Microblocks to solve some specific problems with physical computing. So it's very fast. It allows kids to literally tinker with physical computing devices, real-time changes on the devices as you code. So there's no long coding cycle where you write your code, you compile, you download, you test. Oh, I missed something. I got to go back and do that whole thing again. It's all instantaneous. So it's fantastic. It's also got built-in graphing and all kinds of fun things that fit perfectly with data collection. So this is a fun classroom application. Drones in the classroom, of course, are incredibly popular now. You've got the DJI Tello and others popping up in programs all over the country. Databot enhances those by adding in the aspect of collecting live data. So for example, here you can see 3D printed mounts that are allowing you to clip databot onto the picture on the top is a Robo Talent drone from DJI, and the one on the bottom is a Tello. But this particular activity, these students are doing a hunt for an active volcano, right? And we break kids up in our lesson plans into missions. So they have different roles. In this particular one, you've got one student playing the role of pilot, and the other student is the role of data scientist. And they're both volcanologists. They've been called to the island of Sumatra to help identify if any of these sleeping dormant volcanoes may be coming to life. Anyway, there's a course of volcanoes, which are basically these paper bags. And one of those paper bags has a mixture of baking soda and vinegar in it. So it's been filling with CO2 in the bottom because it's heavier than air. And as students fly this course, they're timed. So of course, they're all trying to get through the course as fast as possible. But they also have to successfully identify which volcano is coming to life and emitting CO2 gases. And when you get your drone over that bag, it literally inflates from the downdraft of the props. And this big plume of CO2 shoots up, and the data spikes, and the kids cheer, and there it is. So it's a good example of it being used.
I love that.
Here's another one, integration with all the different robotic systems out there. So we've integrated with Sphero. This one's a really fun series of activities we did. This is 8 missions that integrate with Lego robotics. And it takes your typical Lego robotics to a new area because now you're integrating all of this additional data collection and data analysis. So lots of fun things there. Jump back to that real quick. This is how they're packaged. I'll get my slide to go back. There we go. So this is what I was talking about, the grab and go science. So we have different packaging. This is your traditional clamshell for the classroom. We also have these Explorer pouches where kids clip them on their backpacks and things like that if you're doing outdoor field trips. They're great for virtual schools where students are, maybe just logging in from home because they can do all kinds of activities with one device from home. So lots of fun ways to use it. And then this list is available on our website. Actually, these are just a bunch of examples of how teachers are using databot in a variety of environments. And you'll see that these range from middle school, high school science, clear down to elementary, all kinds of crazy things.
I just love the ingenuity of teachers, and they're probably doing things with the databot that you never thought they'd be doing with the databot, and just being able to see that creativity in action, that's got to probably bring joy to your heart. Because look at all these teachers just doing project-based learning, doing STEM in their classrooms with this tool that has data literally coming into the palm of their hand. Robert, you were talking about earlier, like if they don't actually have a databot at the moment, there is a tool that they probably already have where they can kind of get a taste of some of these activities that can be capable with this databot, right?
Exactly. Yep. And that's what I wanted to kind of wrap up with, is share how you can get started with exploring data and using some of the activities and see how we design these. One of the most, I think one of the biggest differences in our paradigm for how we do these activities is the design of the activity itself, because you have students physically interacting with data. It's not your traditional science experiment. You are the experiment, basically. This slide's a great example. These students are calibrating an altimeter, and then they're running up and down a set of stairs, and then they're measuring for accuracy. Okay, how accurate is the altimeter? And this involves exploring the science behind how it works, which is, of course, air pressure. As I go up, there's less air pressure, so I can read, a change. All of the activities are like this. And the one that we've created for free that people can use with their smartphone is called Ninja Physics. And it's a perfect example of this kind of thing, because kids will actually be doing these ninja moves and learning about acceleration. They're going to be learning about 3D coordinates, learning about gravity. So yeah, let's switch over to that particular one, and I'll introduce that to you.
I say it's a perfect time for Ninja Physics because the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie came out just a few weeks ago, which is fantastic, by the way, everybody. I recommend it if you are a child of the 80s or 90s. But I see a lot of students that are just doing ninja kicks because of that movie. All you got to do is add in ninja physics, and you got yourself a lesson, right?
Exactly. Yep. So Visi is our application that connects to databot. It's a smart app that you can install on an iOS device, so you can put it on your phone. Works on Android, so you can put it on tablets, and then it also runs on Chromebooks as an Android app. So if you've got a lab of Chromebooks, you literally can turn your Chromebooks into science labs. They connect to databot. You've got access to all of these sensors. Now, one of the cool things about Visi, and it's available on the App Store, it's spelled Vizey. You can download it for free, do this activity, and it'll access the sensors on your phone in addition to being able to connect by Bluetooth to databot. And that's how you can actually experience some of these activities. The URL that you've got up there, Joe, is this form, which I've got displayed. So people can actually fill in that simple form, give us your name and email address, and you'll be able to download a complete lesson plan, which shows you how to download Visi. You'll scan a QR code, which is going to bring in these experiments. And I'll give you a brief description of just two of the experiments. One is a free-form exploration of gravity. So your phone, you're going to be introducing kids to Cartesian coordinates. So your z-axis goes up and down through the center of your phone. So if you're holding it flat in your hand and you start accessing that data, you're going to be able to visualize 9.8 meters per second squared right on the z-axis. Now, if you rotate your phone upright, it's going to shift gravity to the y-axis. If you go left or right, you're going to see the gravity shifting to the x-axis. So this is a great free-form exploration of just seeing the force of gravity being displayed, and you're using your accelerometer to do that. Now, the second activity is called a steady hand, and this is where we begin our ninja training, right? Can you hold your hand steady as a ninja for 10 seconds? And this teaches kids a number of things. So first of all, you've got, you're now looking at 9.8 meters per second squared. You are scored on how well you can hold that databot in your hand, or in this case, your phone. So it's going to take a 10-second data set. Kids can actually go in and explore the data set using Visi, and they can see, where, oh, this is where I bumped, this is where I made that mistake, and then go back and try to get a better score. But it's got a kind of a fun competitive piece to it, and it's all about data, and it makes data fun and friendly, and it's completely accessible. Anybody with a smartphone or a tablet can do this activity.
I would love to see teachers out there, when you're doing that, how still can you hold the phone activity, whether your students are doing it in the morning or afternoon. Because come on, secondary teachers, the class after lunch is a little bit more wily than the first period class in the morning. So I'd love to see if there's a difference between steady hands in the morning or in the afternoon. And Robert, one of the things I also love about the ninja physics and the ability to use Visi on the phone is that we're introducing students to the fact that a phone is not just a communication device or a game playing tool or to check your latest TikTok, right? It has a lot of sensors on it. It has those accelerometers. It has a GPS. There's so many different things that a phone has on it that probably the students never knew. And the Visi app brings those to the surface, and it turns the phone into a scientific instrument, not just an entertainment device. And I think by changing the mindset of what devices can do, you change the mindset of what a student can do. So I think this is a great activity. It's and hopefully that leads into, what else can databot do with Visi when attached? But I love this. Robert, can you tell me how you came up with ninja physics? How you came up with, this idea?
Yeah, again, we work with emerging markets, so Africa, India, and a lot of those locations just do not have access to technology. However, Africa is a great example, 80% mobile phone penetration throughout Africa. So you've got the ability to actually get people started on things like sensors and reading live data just using a smartphone. Now, smartphones have a wide variety of capabilities. And for those of us here in the US that are spoiled with these iPhones, you've got a half a dozen sensors on there where you can do all kinds of experiments. What we do is we focus primarily on activities using the accelerometer, because even the lowest floor device that we run into will have an accelerometer on it. Accelerometers are used in your device for example, just shifting from portrait to landscape mode, right? So they're built in. Every device has those, and there's tons of things like Ninja Physics that you can do with just an accelerometer. So we actually are developing some additional modules so that we can continue working with emerging markets. That's how we actually started in India. We started a Ninja Physics movement with a nonprofit there. Over the course of a quarter, we had 1,000 students do the Ninja Walk. And then some nonprofits got very excited about it, started actually funding more hardware. Those students now have databots. Databots are in little motorcycle STEM labs going out into rural Indian villages. And yeah, it's really great to see. And that's really how the whole Ninja Physics and accessing things on the smartphone got started for us.
Excellent. Oh, I love this. I love the fact that, you have science at heart here. And, even if somebody doesn't have a databot in hand, they can still utilize your app for free, still utilize the different lessons that are available on the website by utilizing the phone sensors, such as the accelerometer. I just love that fact. That's a great story. To be able to showcase to educators. But I also want to let people know who are watching this, you're like, oh, I want to try this out. Definitely go to the website you see at the bottom, databot.us.com, and check it out. But there is something that we're going to be announcing closer towards January, where you can learn a little bit more about databot and maybe possibly get your hands on some databots as well. So when we have that finalized idea, we're definitely going to let every single one of you know. Well, Robert, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much for introducing us to this powerful, tiny device. And thank you so much for everything you've done just during your career, listening to your intro, your passion throughout the ages, throughout the years is just mind-blowing. And continuing to grow and continuing to showcase the need for project-based learning and hands-on learning is incredible. So I appreciate you, my friend, and I appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having Databot on board. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, I hope this is the beginning of a very great partnership between Databot and Q.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Now, I have been playing with this tool, and it is really fun. There's nothing better than having two little girls run around the backyard, seeing who can make the best graph of acceleration. I mean, it's really fun. They may not quite understand what it means, but they understand that what their actions are doing is influencing data, and that data can be visualized. And once they understand the terms, they can then interpret what that data means. And that's the beginning of understanding and bringing in actual real world problems and real world solutions into the classroom. And I think this is a fantastic way of doing it. So I want to thank Robert for joining us today. I want to thank you for joining us and watching us today as well. And please, again, do not forget, we do have our STEMposium coming up here very shortly at the end of the month. It is 100% free for Q members. There is no cost for Q members, and it is all day on September 30th from 9 to 4, all virtual. So definitely go to qlearns.org/ccstem and sign up for free as a Q member today. And I wouldn't be able to end the episode without reminding you as well that we do have Fall Q coming up at towards the end of October 21st and 22nd. We are registering for that today. So go to fallq.org and see some of the biggest and brightest educators presenting on their passions as well. So as always, thank you for everything that you do, whether you're starting your schooling this week or you've been going for a month. Keep changing the world one day, one classroom, one period at a time. Have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful